just like test my levels. Hold up one sec. Just turn everything on.
Testing. No?
Oh, no, you're good.
You can hear me?
I can hear it.
Okay.
It's just loading up. These things are kind of old. All right. So yeah, just talk.
Into your mic? Hello?
You know, just like you're a politician.
Check. Oh, don't say that.
You're not.
Testing.
Testing.
Cool.
Can you hear me?
What?
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a politician.
No, you're a
Nor
journalist.
will I ever be.
No, you will always. Oh my God. No, I didn't mean that as like you are. Cool. Alright, dope. Never thought I'd meet Pete Buttigieg. It's kind of cool. I mean, no, I'm just saying.
Of all places, you're meeting your mate.
Right. Just under a highway underpass.
Hey, Pete, you got the stuff?
Ridiculous. Yes. Hopefully he'll like look toward the highway at some point. What was her name?
Andy. Eli. Colorado.
Oh. Yeah, I met you in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Many moons ago. Colorado put on radio.
It's Colorado in February in the mountains. I think you're going to be okay. So there's your rundown.
Okay.
And then you're down here, and then the secretary comes after you.
Okay.
Margaret, John Murray, we've talked on the phone tons of
Hi,
times.
John. Nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Good. And I am not planning on mentioning my Association of Ski Towns affiliation, so I don't think they were expecting me to. But.
See, but they say...
They each get 25 minutes, right?
Yeah, 25 minutes. Or is it 30? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I cut my remarks when I saw the temperature today. Okay.
If it was yesterday, the one side benefit was everybody talked for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, Polis, Bennett, Hickenlooper, Nagoose, Shoshana, UPS. Okay. Boy, president, I got a promotion. Never had that title before. Is someone...
It's ED, right?
Yeah, I'm the director of the I-70 Coalition.
Yeah.
But that's not for no one's introducing, right?
You know, that would be a good question, because if you don't want that, you want to black that out.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if they're going to... Who might know? Matt might know. Yeah, Matt might know. He's been working directly with their folks.
Okay. Maybe if you see him.
So yeah, I'll try to track him down and see if we can...
Okay. I definitely want to cross out president, because that's just wrong.
Just call me Madam President. Thank you. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll just make it easy on y'all.
Oh, boy.
I think my guy like what the M's are.
Yeah, let me see if I can find out, and then
Okay.
we need to black that out for
Okay.
you.
I didn't recognize you at all. Am I? Oh, like my kid. I believe that's it.
What we need to do on this, because you know what?
Nope, I actually don't. I know her name.
She's here. So she wants to make sure that she's not introduced as president of the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, just as the head of the I-70 Coalition. So we need to black that out.
Who's in charge? Mario. Well, we gotta find who Mario Archuga is. I don't have a pen. Where's... Do you have a pen?
Matt gave this to me to put on your...
So let's find Matt then.
Yeah.
Let me, if I can find Matt.
Do you ever have a pen on you?
That's my car.
Same.
I'll see if I can track him down.
He was directing the motorcade. Yeah. There's gotta be a...
haven't been put in.
He shines. That's a disaster.
Who is doing? Are they introducing each other? You think? Or do we have a?
I hope that's not too confusing. Well. Sorry,
I just want to see if the feedback is like.
He needs to do a mic
No,
test.
bad or
Rico.
not.
idea.
Just give me a sec.
Okay, you just tell me when.
Yeah, we'll do. What was your name?
I'm Presley.
Presley Eli.
Hi, Eli.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You're Colorado Public Radio, right? Okay, awesome. I'm just another member of the CDOT communications team here to help out today.
All right, go for it.
Okay. All right. We're testing your mic. Sorry, he's testing his mic.
Yeah, all good.
I know
all
you
good.
all are good. Great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
We're good. Thanks. Dope. Color of royalty. Don't mean to be in your way.
Do you mind crossing the director? Do you mind crossing the governor off? We're going to start with Senator Bennett.
Okay, but the governor is speaking, right?
He's not here yet.
Oh, he's not here yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to go?
Yeah, just cross him off.
I guess I got that right. There we go.
Alright, cool.
All right.
Should I just start?
Yeah. Call us.
Is that all right? I'm not. Well, it's great. Are you guys ready? Are we ready? Well, the governor's on his way, so we're going to get started without him. And this is a great day, I think, for Colorado. A great day for our country. We're delighted to be out here, especially with the local leaders that have fought so hard for so long to improve I-70. I want to thank Secretary Buttigieg for being here. He really, it's amazing that he's taking 2 days out of his schedule to be here in Colorado to be able to see both the Front Range but also the West Slope of Colorado to understand the needs that we have as a state. Floyd Hill and I-70 obviously are critical to our country. They're part of I-70, which is one of the most significant infrastructure projects in America, and Floyd Hill is an incredible pain point on I-70, both for Coloradans that are trying to get to the mountains, but also and from the mountains, but also for everybody who's coming across the United States of America and has a reason to expect that they can travel on a hill that's actually safe. And we're here today to say that we're going to start this project with state money. We hope we're going to have some federal money to complete the project. But the reason that we're able to do it is because this administration in Washington has a new set of priorities. After years and years and years of cutting taxes for the richest people in America, almost to the tune of $8 trillion, after fighting 2 wars in the Middle East that cost $5.6 trillion, we finally have passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill that's going to be a proper investment in the infrastructure in Colorado and all across our country. The only reason why there is a Floyd Hill is that our parents and grandparents had the decency to build for the future, and they knew what we were going to need to have a strong economy, to have a strong democracy, and they invested to do that. For too long we haven't done that. Now we have, and Secretary Buttigieg has been a huge part of that. This bill, the infrastructure bill that we passed in Washington, is going to invest $6 billion in Colorado with $225 million to improve nearly 500 bridges and preserve another 500 bridges. So finally, after years of investing everywhere except America, we're finally rebuilding in our country. We're staying true to Colorado, and Washington is going to be a good partner, I think, for CDOT and for the state of Colorado as we try to address not just Floyd Hill, but everything else that we need to address on I-70. And I think just like our parents and grandparents thought about us and someday thought maybe we'd be standing here thinking about them, the people that are going to come after us are going to know that we had a vision for them as well, that we understood that we had a responsibility to this democracy and to the generations that are coming after us, which is why we're here today. And I want to make one last point before I turn it over to Senator Hickenlooper, and that is that this is obviously a very, very difficult day in Ukraine while we're here, and the Putin's assault on Ukraine is an assault on all of us, and it's an assault on democracy. It's a reminder why it's so important for us to pull together as a country, and this investment is a reflection of that as well. So with that, I will turn it over to somebody who worked incredibly hard to get this bipartisan infrastructure bill across the finish line, our former governor who knows better almost than anybody else what the needs of this state and this corridor really are, John Hickenlooper.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for being such a strong voice for the solidarity we need to address the invasion of Ukraine. We are with the Ukrainian people, and we understand that we have to come together as a country, and this is a perfect model of that. I mean, I-70, Colorado's grown at double the national rate over the last 10 years, and yet we've done not nearly enough. We've put some money into the infrastructure, but not nearly enough. This is going to be a big difference. President after president have promised to get a big infrastructure bill done. President Biden did it, and he has delivered. As Michael said, almost $6 billion. There'll be something close to $3 billion just for roads. And I-70 is the connection between the great outdoors and the Front Range and where most of the people live. What has made our growth possible at double the national rate over this last decade is people want to connect with that magic that happens in Colorado, where people can have a great job and work hard all week and then have unbelievable experiences, whether it's on a ski mountain or hiking into a hot springs. They get to experience the outdoors on the weekends. That falls apart if we can't fix the congestion here. And I think everybody in Colorado knows it. We are very excited to have a president who's behind infrastructure and has made as his Secretary of Transportation one of the most talented public officials, I think, not just in the administration, but in the country right now. And I think we are poised to take the maximum advantage from these investments. So without further, I'll turn it over to our Representative Joe Neguse, who has been, again, a key supporter in the House to make sure that these dollars are coming to Colorado.
Well, it's great to be here in Clear Creek County. First, I would be remiss if I didn't echo the remarks of both of our senators with respect to the situation unfolding in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Of course, our thoughts and our prayers are with the people of Ukraine as we work with our allies and certainly our colleagues here in the Congress and the Senate to hold Russia accountable in the coming days and weeks ahead. I couldn't be more excited to welcome Secretary Buttigieg to Colorado and to the most beautiful congressional district in the United States, the 2nd District here in Clear Creek County. I imagine that he will see that for himself today as he travels across Summit County and Eagle County and off to Garfield County at the end of the day. And what better occasion than today to be able to celebrate this project. And of course, we're grateful to the state of Colorado, to CDOT and the executive director at CDOT, Shoshana, as well as the governor, for their leadership in beginning this project, which has been in the works for literally decades upon decades. And we are grateful for the leadership of President Biden and our colleagues in the House and the Senate for delivering on infrastructure so that hopefully we can bring federal resources to bear on projects just like this one. And it's worth repeating the statistic, or the fact rather, that Senator Bennett referenced during his remarks. The fact that this will be, under the infrastructure bill, the largest investment in bridges since the beginning of the interstate highway system is simply astounding. I mean, think about that. No one here was alive when the interstate highway system was first conceived of. And yet, here we are today, poised to deliver in a way, well, maybe everyone here but Senator Hickenlooper was alive. Was not alive. Yeah, he wasn't, he was not old enough to see the system fully flourish as it is now. But the point of the matter is that these investments are going to make a huge difference for the people of Colorado, for the people of Clear Creek County. As the Secretary well knows, I-70 is such an incredibly important economic artery for our communities here in the 2nd District. And these investments, the fact that President Biden has delivered in a way that no president in the last 40 years on both sides of the aisle has, in terms of making this commitment to get infrastructure funding across the finish line. It's a big deal for our community, a big deal for Idaho Springs and for Georgetown and for the counties that make up the I-70 corridor. I want to say thank you to the local elected officials who are here today, who have been in the trenches working on this year after year after year. People like Clear Creek County Commissioner Randy Wheelock and Clear Creek County Commissioner George Marlin, and many, many others who have really put in the work decade after decade to get us to where we are today. So thank you again, Secretary Buttigieg, for being here. And without further ado, we'll now welcome up Shoshana Liu, the best executive director of any transportation agency in the country, CDOT.
Thank you, Representative Neguse. And it's this spot is a significant one for really all of us who are focused on this topic. Some of you will remember that we stood here with so many of the state leaders over the summer when the governor signed Senate Bill 260, the monumental state infrastructure investment in clean transportation. And it kind of dovetails with the federal investment that we're here to talk about today. And that's exactly the kind of coming together that a project like this one represents as we think about how to bring all of the federal and state resources to bear together with our local partners. So many of you are here who have worked for a very, very, very long time on making this project happen. And we're also joined here today by several of our freight partners representing the fact that I-70 is a critical set of movements, for everybody in their individual lives, but also for the delivery of goods and services throughout the state of Colorado. The project that will be taking place here is the fixing of the notorious Floyd Hill choke point by streamlining the 3 and 3 lane configuration, fixing the very fast deteriorating bridges that we're looking at. But it's not just a capacity project. It's about bringing this arterial to a modern multimodal functionality, and will be complemented not just by fixing the road itself, but by integrating transit service, integrating mobility hubs in places like Idaho Springs as we deliver the new Pegasus bus service that will help to provide lots of options for travelers along this route. And I think that's exactly the kind of thinking that we are doing as we think about how to recognize the fact that we can't build our way out of congestion on places like I-70, where we're obviously surrounded by the mountains and the beauty of the space in a way that's very, very clear. So it's a very exciting process pulling this project together. We just selected partners for both the design of the project and construction. Several of the early projects that are part of this initiative will actually be breaking ground in the next few weeks. Several of the wildlife crossings and a roundabout are being advanced along with the Pegasus service. So we'll actually physically have work underway this summer, and then the mainline construction should begin as early as next year. And then over the next half a decade, we'll get this project done as we continue to go through the choke points on I-70 and I-25 and so many other critical projects across the state. So really, really thrilled to be here with so many incredible partners today. And with that, it is an honor to introduce Margaret Bowes, who's been a leader of the local I-70 coalition for a long time.
Thank you, Director Liu. So I'm speaking today on behalf of the 27 local governments and businesses that make up the I-70 Coalition. The I-70 Coalition is very pleased to be here today, as we've been a really strong supporter of the Floyd Hill project. And this is a project that was identified by the Coalition as our absolute top priority project for the Mountain Corridor. And it's a priority project because I-70 is the lifeline to the communities on this corridor, and it's how millions of Coloradans and visitors access our state's wonderful outdoor and recreational amenities. But we also know that it's a critical intra and interstate commerce. It's critical to that commerce and is vital to providing Western Slope residents access to medical services, jobs, and educational opportunities. So the Coalition has worked with CDOT and other stakeholders for many years to develop a long-range plan for this corridor. And a 6-lane component from Floyd Hill to the Veterans Memorial Tunnels is part specifically called out in that planning document. So this project will help to make that plan a reality. With the very limited alternate routes through the mountains, this project will provide more reliable access to visitors, residents, and businesses, and it will capitalize on other recent CDOT investments such as the Veterans Memorial Tunnel and the new westbound Mountain Express lane. So on behalf of the membership of the I-70 Coalition, I want to thank everyone that's been involved in the planning and funding for this project. And it's a project that will truly be transformational for the Mountain Corridor. So thank you. And next, I have the honor to introduce Secretary Buttigieg.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Margaret, for demonstrating the civic leadership that is so important to couple with elected leadership in order to get big things done. I want to acknowledge and thank Representative Neguse, Senator Hickenlooper, and Senator Bennett. First of all, just to address the news of the day, I want to associate myself with their remarks and with the President's determination to respond to the unprovoked attack from Russia. From a DOT perspective, this means that the FAA in particular will be closely monitoring the situation and acting to ensure that U.S. carriers are safe and get notices to air emission for any relevant or impacted parts of the Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Russian airspace. But I also want to thank and acknowledge Representative Neguse and Senator Hickenlooper and Senator Bennett for their support for this bipartisan infrastructure law. It is not an exaggeration to say that their support for this historic landmark legislation will directly lead to improvements in the daily commutes, the everyday life, the job opportunities, and the bank accounts of every Coloradan. And that's part of why we're here, to point out exactly what President Biden's vision for building a better America looks like, and to do it in partnership with our friends in state leadership. Director Liu, who has distinguished herself and CDOT as a leading agency in implementing forward-thinking transportation policy, and the governor just-in-time delivery. The governor, whom I will toss to after my remarks, who I think has a lot to be proud of, including the fact that before we got to have the president sign the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, he and his colleagues had already delivered one here in the state. And for anybody who gets the wrong idea and thinks, well, gosh, why did we do that at the state level if it was coming at the federal level? I want to make clear that kind of leadership and commitment at the state level means that states like Colorado are especially well positioned to hit the ground running and take advantage of the federal legislation and the federal funding that is coming your way. Here at Floyd Hill, we're looking forward to improvements to outdated infrastructure that are going to reduce congestion for residents, have those quality of life impacts that the senator and others were talking about, increase safety, improve travel options. We also want to put an exclamation point on just how much this is a supply chain issue too. This is part of what America's supply chains look like, and when trucks are backed up or unable to get to where they need to go in a timely fashion, that is something you will see in shipping times and in prices at the store, even if you don't yourself traverse this I-70 corridor, even if you don't drive. Right now we've got an unprecedented level of demand for goods. That is a sign of economic recovery, but we're pushing those goods across infrastructure that was built generations ago, and then that challenge has been compounded by what has happened with the pandemic. As complex as the causes of these supply chain disruptions are, the impact is very simple, which is that Americans are waiting longer and paying more for goods that they need. And that is one of the reasons why we have such a sense of urgency about deploying these infrastructure resources. I also want to mention that today we are releasing the administration's report, as we were tasked to do a year ago with the one-year clock by President Biden on supply chain disruptions. It reflects the work that we've done in every part of the country, from working with the ports of LA and Los Angeles on their expansion to 24/7 operations, to nationwide work to strengthen the trucking workforce, to funds to set up inland pop-up temporary container yards in places like Savannah. We launched last month the largest dedicated highway bridge investment ever, that I think is going to be, again, important not just for convenience and commutes, but for the supply chains of our country. Yesterday, we announced applications for $450 million, largest ever federal investment in the Port Infrastructure Development Program. And today we're putting forward over 60 actions recommended in our report and strategy that are going to help us address the supply chain concerns that we have, both in the near term and for the long run. Of course, there's also a place where we can't help but talk about climate change, knowing that transportation is the single largest contributor of greenhouse gases in the U.S. economy, and one of many reasons why we need to make sure transportation is a big part of the solution. Tomorrow I'll be visiting another of the most vulnerable parts of I-70 in the country, the Glenwood Canyon. The mudslides that occurred there last summer, triggered by wildfires, caused enormous destruction to property and to life and to our supply chains, forcing truck drivers to have to decide between 3-hour detours or being stuck. So I want to emphasize right now the opportunity in front of us, the challenge in front of us, and the partnership behind us, literally, that is going to allow us to make this a historic season, one like nothing we have seen in our adult lifetimes, and one that I think will be remembered for many decades to come. But again, let me hand it to Governor Polis, whose administration has been doing such good work and who we are looking forward to working with closely on everything from supply chain enhancements to electric vehicle charging stations to the improvements that we're featuring right here on I-70 today. Governor?
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Buttigieg. We welcome you to Colorado on a crisp day. We're so excited to have you here to really show you both some of the achievements we've made here in Colorado in fixing our roads, as well as some of the challenges ahead. Last year, Colorado pulled together a stunning coalition, bipartisan, of lawmakers and mayors, the business community, the environmental community, local leaders, to pass historic transportation legislation to fund our roads and bridges and highways for the future, and also to prepare Colorado for a successful electric vehicle transition. Last month, 13% of the cars sold in Colorado were electric vehicles. That's only increasing, especially as people recognize the amount of money they can save on gas costs with electric vehicles. The state level effort in combination with the federal effort is really going to transform the ability of Coloradans to move quickly across the state. And who hasn't been stuck in traffic here at Floyd Hill? I have. Our delegation has. And you know what? This investment won't solve it all, but it'll go a long way. With these 8 miles, the most heavily trafficked stretch, this will make a major improvement in the flow of people, goods across this area. If you live along the Front Range, you know what it's like to get stuck in this corridor. Early on, this was part of the 10-year plan. Now, thanks to the resources of HB 260 and the federal infrastructure bill, this project begins in the next few weeks and will be completed within 5 years. And it's important to note that one of the reasons it takes a little longer to finish is this road cannot be closed. This is a critical national artery. So there will be times off-peak when there might be some restrictions on travel, but this has got to be open for our state, and we've got to complete this project as fast as possible to deliver on these savings. I'm glad that the Secretary will also be visiting Glenwood Canyon tomorrow, the site of closures from the mudslides directly related to the fires of the previous summer. Floyd Hill is a challenging section of interstate, steep grades, sharp curves. It's not just about the flow of traffic, it's also about safety, saving lives, preventing property damage. And I'm excited that we will very soon, in the next few weeks, begin construction on this highway, which really hasn't been updated since the 1960s. A lot has changed in 60 years. Most notably, a lot more people use this stretch of highway. We have to make sure that our major corridors across Colorado can keep people moving as we continue to grow so that everybody can enjoy everything that our state has to offer. Thank you to the Secretary, to Senator Hickenlooper, to Senator Bennett, to Congressman Neguse. We're very excited to highlight the work on this project, and we look forward to delivering as quickly as we can to get it done. Thank you. Are we taking a few questions? We're taking a few questions. Secretary?
Yep, that'd be great. So I wanted to make a question. Spencer Wilson, CBS 4. We've heard politicians speak about crumbling infrastructures. I know Colorado might not have the oldest roads or bridges, but I do know we have some of the most treacherous areas to get through for drivers. We talk about the dollar amounts already, but do you consider Colorado a priority when it comes to the national transportation conversation with the court?
Absolutely, and for many of the reasons that we were discussing a moment ago. The role of I-70 in supply chains that matter to people who live 1,000 miles away. The vulnerability to climate impacts and the way that the resilience of our country is really at stake in how places like Colorado can adapt. The opportunity around things like electric vehicles, where Colorado has been among the leaders. Every state has different needs. You know, where I grew up, we actually, in an industrial town that lost some of its population, we actually have more infrastructure built for more people than we actually have. Very different from areas that are experiencing a lot of growth. We recognize that difference in needs. It's why there's a lot of flexibility, and so much is in the hands of the states, as well as the decisions that we make at the department federally. But there's no question that Colorado will benefit in a big way, and I can tell you, your federal delegation here, your representatives, certainly both of the senators who are here, have not been shy about making the case to our department about how to make sure Colorado gets its fair share and then some.
Secretary, you mentioned the imperative addressing climate change. There has been some criticism of the infrastructure package for being very road heavy, and this may or may not be the best example because it has safety imperatives in the project and brings some standard conditions up, but a lot of highway miles will get filled with this. Where's the balance there, and is there a risk that there's going to be too much pavement that will not help address it?
I think balance is the operative word. As Director Liu said, you can't always just pave your way out of a congestion problem. And I'm particularly interested to have seen the policy steps that were taken here to really factor in issues of greenhouse gas emissions and environmental responsibility in roadway decisions. Obviously, there are some places where it is rational to add capacity, but there are also other places where people maybe had that kind of all you have is a hammer kind of attitude and haven't been as thoughtful about creating alternatives. So we've got to make sure that we look at quality as well as quantity of transportation decisions, that we create alternatives, and that our roadways are part of a larger transportation story that includes ways to sometimes reduce the necessity for certain trips, to improve the climate impact of certain trips. That's what the EVs are about. To shift the modes of certain trips where they can be done in a shared way or through quality transit, and take other steps to help bring that into the right kind of balance. We're always going to have roads, we're always going to have cars, but it's no longer the be-all, end-all of transportation policy. And I think decision makers in Colorado have reflected that insight in their choices.
Is there any, will there be any kind of incentives offered by DOT to encourage more states to take that lead and maybe even go more aggressive than Colorado?
Yeah, certainly when you look at, for example, the criteria in our discretionary grant programs, they reflect the priority that we're placing on climate action. There are also new programs that Congress created that we haven't yet completed and rolled out. We will later this year, like the carbon reduction program, that are going to be very focused on the way to do that. And again, what's so great about this infrastructure law is we're not just pleading with states and local governments to try to do these things, we're funding them to try to do these things. Secretary, could you talk about Build Back Better and whether there's still a need for it and whether there are chances to revive it in addition to what you've already done? Absolutely. These are good policies. Most Americans support them. The president believes in them, and so does this administration. I can't speak to what moment or what legislative vehicle or even what brand name will bring them ultimately to reality, but these are needed policies, especially with what we've been seeing in terms of the price pressure people have seen. Policies to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, to reduce the cost of housing, to reduce the cost of insulin, to reduce the cost of child care, and to speak from a transportation perspective, to reduce the cost of electric vehicles. You know, we're just at Mariposa, a public housing facility that has electric vehicle charging infrastructure there, can make a big difference for residents there. But we also got to buy down that sticker price so that more people can afford to save money, if that makes sense. Because we know if you own one of these EVs, you're going to save money on maintenance and fuel. But the price supports that are in Build Back Better help more families take advantage of that by being able to afford an EV in the first place. So we continue to stand by these policies. We'll continue to advance them, even while we have a lot on our plate with the bipartisan infrastructure law. All right. Thanks. Thanks again for joining. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Good job.
Heard you all did great.